hello there, and so this is my Resident Evil 4 impressions video. I've played the game once so far. I believe I did it in 28 hours and 10 minutes.
Stay back!
RE4 is quite a long game generally anyway, in comparison to the other games. I enjoyed my time with it. It complements the original game quite well. Graphically it stands up. Yes, they're saying that the original game's not too bad really, even considering that. Considering when it came out in 2005. But I did have some issues with the game. So I'm running on a 3060 Ti. And this has been widely reported by quite a lot of people on YouTube and in gaming in general. 8 gig cards, if you try and put the texture quality up any higher than a gig, you will run into a lot of crashes. I had probably 10 to 20 crashes for the entire game. And I messed with the settings quite a bit. It seems to only really it seems to affect 8 gig cards mostly, which, you know, it's getting to the point now where you're going to need more video memory to run things at high, probably, although it's dependent on the game. But I will say that if you up the texture quality in the game would crash a lot, a hell of a lot. You can enable ray tracing, but it doesn't. From what I see, for the RE games, don't seem to benefit that greatly from ray tracing as a general rule. And from my own experience, I've not really played many games that really require ray tracing or even look that much better with ray tracing on. I'm sure there are some examples sometimes, but I haven't played them personally. So that was a bit annoying. The crashing issues. So basically, as I said, it was if you up the texture quality of the game, I think on default it was set to 2 gig, and it just kept crashing on me. So I had to reduce the texture quality down to a gig, even though I've got I mean, I don't understand the whole graphics thing anyway, really, but like, so I had to have it on 1 gig and just kept it at that. I had ray tracing enabled and disabled at times, and it's nice to have, but the game says enough about it anyway. So. But the actual game itself, okay, let's straight away, escort missions, and this is no bad reflection on the game itself. Escort missions, they're just sort of as simple as that. They're not very good, and it's not really the game's fault. The original game had escort missions, but it's a stressful game. And some will say, well, it's more challenging because of that. But the AI it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. And I like the new voice actors, particularly for Ashley, and obviously Leon is the same voice actor as the RE2 remake of Leon, and I think he's really good. Ashley in this is less annoying, which I like. The voice actor's done a very good job of letting her. She sounds much less irritating and cringy compared to the original. And that's no offense to the original act either. It's just how the game script is and how the story is. But yeah, there were points in the game where I wanted to put my head through my monitor because it was just so annoying. Prime example would be the big chief of the village when he appears, and they set things up slightly differently in this game, particularly the ending, which I'm not going to blow. I mean, the game has been, I think I cleared it 2 or 3 weeks back now. I've only done 1 playthrough, so I will probably go back at some point and do another playthrough because the guns are awesome and tremendous, and I will sort of give a point on that in a bit. But yeah, the chief guy appears, and he's pretty good. He's probably scary in some ways than the original guy from the 2005 game. But the one thing that did do my head in was with the escort missions. There's a point in the game where you have to run basically up a hill, and AI was doing my nutting. she just kept powering down. If anything went right, it wasn't even like anything had no explosions or anything. But like, when you go through the gate and he comes through the gate behind you, I must have done that 20 plus times. And it did nothing, because all she kept doing for most of those attempts was she'd go on a power on her knees, and that would be it. And you're like, God damn it! And I'm like, run, run! And she just wouldn't run. And he'd pick her up and walk off, and he did that once 20 plus times. I tried all sorts of tactics to sort of put mines on him to slow him down, shoot him. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get it done in the end. But there were just points like that where that did make it. There is also another point where you go into like it's like a Victorian church crossed with like the layout of a library, and there's a point where the last Plagas virus starts to affect you, and obviously your vision all goes red and stuff. And that wasn't too bad, but it was just the fact that they really do. They really have upped the ante in terms of the villagers. They just keep coming. Like I've got some footage showing now, which is, I wouldn't say difficult. I died a few times, and it was kind of like it's not well, on hardcore mode. What I've been told about this game, it's very, very difficult. This is only on normal, so I can't imagine how much more difficult it's going to be on the harder difficulties. Yeah, they just keep coming. There's a point where you have to go down across a. It's like a bridge. Well, not a bridge. It's like a little bridge over like a room, and obviously the villagers and the priests press a lever and it goes down, and then everyone comes after you. And I did that many times when I ended up discovering, I don't know if it's an exploit or if it's just something, I don't think it's an exploit, it's just something you do. I ended up getting the bolt one with mines, which by the way are awesome. I'd recommend that weapon over a lot of the other weapons. It's really, really handy when you've got a tight squeeze. And just mining the room, and as soon as they walked up to press the lever, it blew them up. And the lever wasn't pressed down, so I was just going straight across and grabbed the thing. I must have done that about 6 times or something. And yeah, so it's actually just sometimes you just want to put your head for a whirl, because she's constantly always like she'd get captured. There was a point in the game where you actually got to play as her, and I had to go down and find all these puzzles, and there's these like knights which they were a bit of a challenge at times as well, in terms of how they chased after you, and then obviously when you shoot them, obviously they cover an armor, so it's not as easy to sort of get headshots on them and make them count. And obviously then when you blow their heads off, then they sprout the last Plagas thing. So as you can see in this particular point in the game, so there's a lot of tension in this game in terms of villagers keep coming at you and stuff, but at the same time, for all that stress and tension, the game is just so much fun. This is what I've said before about Resident Evil, particularly 4, 5, and even 6, which I'm not a particularly big fan of, but I have watched some reviews on 6 in the recent months that kind of give me a more interesting sort of perspective on the game, and how it's not a terrible game, it's just not a very good RE game. But there's just so much going on, and as I said, it's the most accessible Resident Evil game is 4, 5, and 6, even if they're not my favorite. Even I have to admit that they're just more accessible than the other Resident Evil games, and that's a good thing for people that aren't so keen on the survival horror aspects or the tank controls. I think it's awesome. I hope they do a Code Veronica remake, because I do think that game could use a remake. All the other them would obviously be Dino Crisis, but we'll see. I guess I hope they don't do 5 and 6, because I don't feel like they really need a remake. But I guess we'll see. They may do something original Capcom. So, but this game is just a labour of love all the way through, and it's a long game. The Krauser fight was interesting. It was quite different. Wouldn't say difficult, but it had some challenging points. The big thing I had to remember is I kept forgetting to parry with the knife in the sort of early segments of the game. So that took a while to get used to, because obviously you couldn't do that in the original. If the Chainsaw Man got you, that was it, you were done for. But there's another point in the game where you're in like a shack, and I mean Resident Evil 4 is, well, I mean Village takes a lot of its aesthetics from Resident Evil 4 anyway. And I didn't can't really jump, and I shit myself because these two chainsaw wielding enemies came through the shack, literally through the wall, and just did it. There was bits like that caught me off guard every now and then that I didn't really expect. Just thinking a little bit. So the first boss, the chief boss, yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't say stupidly hard, but it was challenging. From what it took me a few attempts to get through it. And again, the weapons variety can be quite handy, especially, as I said, I'll go on to the weapons in a moment. The bolt gun, that's just a tremendously good gun. So the chief boss was pretty much the same as the original in a lot of ways. The little dude, I can't remember what the guy's name is now. When the original version, it's iconic because he lobs a knife in his hand, and it's just there's less cheese in this version game. It's more serious generally than the 2005 version of the game. He was a bit more of a challenge. It took me a few attempts to get through that because he kept dropping acid on me, and I kind of went in there with, I wouldn't say, I never had low ammunition per se. I was getting low at times, but I never. Unlike with Code Veronica, where I do remember running out of ammo and I was done, there was nothing I could do. I had to start the game all over again, or from the last save point where I had ammo. But yeah, there was no point in normal difficulty where I ran out of ammo and had any real problems, because you always were. There's so many resources littered around. On normal mode, I can't speak for the higher difficulties, but it was a fun experience. The final boss was definitely more of a challenge for sure, and I mean, I did say I wouldn't blow this place, but I'll mention that at the end. There are some differences compared to the original game. The boat segments, I kind of liked that. It was kind of like a hub world. There was a lot of stuff you could do. There was a lot of resources to go back and collect. And there was some pretty not difficult puzzles, but there was some challenging puzzles at times where you had to obviously go back, and I kept sort of going back, backstepping to look for treasure. There was one treasure I never found at the beginning of the main village at the very start of the game, where I think to get into it you needed Ashley, and I never went back that way. It was where the tower collapses, if I remember correctly. And so there were bits like that, but I did a lot of backtracking. That's why I spent so long. I mean, 20 hours is quite a long duration to be sort of playing the game. I think most other people did it a lot quicker than I would have done it. But I kind of like that. I didn't have. There was never a moment in the game where I got stuck. I like to sort of go through games quite slowly anyway. So. I enjoyed that. There were aspects of the game that did frustrate me, like I think the bit when you're climbing all the wooden. Oh God, I can't remember what the word would be now. There's a point in the game where it's like wooden things you're walking over, struts and stuff like that, and they just kept coming. It didn't matter how many of them you killed, and there were some that were throwing things from above me, but I couldn't even see where they were throwing them from. You've got the same sort of collectibles, like your medallions and stuff, and the guy that sells all your stuff, the merchant, yeah, he's pretty cool. I still like and the things he sells and the things you can give him in trade for new weapons and upgrades for your weapons and different types of ammo. Right, let's get on to that now. The weapons upgrade system and the weapons, you know, are just in this game are just. They always were in the original. They're just stellar. It's just awesome the way it all plays out and it works. And there's a lot of There's a lot of things you can do to the weapons. I spent a lot of time upgrading the weapons and then selling them on once they were fully or nearly upgraded, and I was able to have a more powerful shotgun. But let's get onto it, because I've been going on about it already. The bolt thrower is fucking, excuse my language, tremendous as a weapon. It's not that useful in its standard configuration, but as soon as you upgrade it with and put mines on it, oh, it's such a good weapon. It clears enemies out like nobody. It's just so effective all the way through the game. And because of that, it just allows you to do so much more. And obviously your normal weapons, your shotgun. I didn't pick up the machine gun. Upgrading the pistol, basic shotgun, then the more powerful shotgun, and because I got the deluxe edition, I got some other weapons with it, like deluxe weapons or something, but I haven't used any of them. The Magnum, always upgrade the Magnum because it's always handy. For the bolt, on the rifles, or the bolt rifle. The only point of the game where I had particular issues, I would say, was just the... I can't remember what they're even called. The things with the organs, you can see you have to target them with like a special type of scope that shows you the vital points to hit. They were scary in the original. They're horrifying in this version, and you have to have the right equipment to take them out. Otherwise, that was the only point in the game where I got really, really low on ammo. And there is a boss where you have to basically just slow it down. I don't know if you can kill it. Maybe you can. I'm not sure, because you have to get back to a lift. And then I just jumped in because this thing was freaking me out, and it was like those things I just described, but a lot bigger. And it was one of the boss fights, like in, I think it was the sewers or something like that. And it just didn't die, no matter what I did. So I ended up running from it. But I think this game is well worth your time. It's awesome. Definitely a recommendation from me. And it's not better than the original, but it complements the original, and it's incredibly accessible and incredible fun.
You want to start explaining?
And it just has a more serious tone. And I'm not going to blow it, but the ending is slightly different to the original as well. So I'm going to leave it there, and I hope this gave you some idea of what you're expecting if you haven't played it yet. And if you're interested, try the original. If you like the original, maybe try the remake, because even though I think the original stands up, it's tremendously good, and a high recommendation from me. Anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope I haven't droned on too much.
See, at this early stage, the parasite, the plaga, it is possible to remove it with the surgical procedure. And all you need is some know-how. And oh yeah, the right equipment.
Wait, you two?